Whatever.
All right, welcome back to yet again another podcast for Sobriety 7 with Cheyenne Morrison. And I have today with me Luis Castro. Now, if there's any topic that you want us to discuss, or me and somebody that I know from the community, go ahead and comment down below what it is you would like to hear about. This podcast is specifically to talk about the ins and outs of sobriety and addiction and eliminating the negative stigma around the topic. And today we're going to talk about the false beliefs and seeing alcohol for what it truly is. And we're going to touch a little bit about the negative stigma around talking about this topic. So, welcome, Luis.
Bonjour.
Merci. So, the false belief, seeing alcohol for what it truly is, I mean, there are so many, right? I feel more confident. I feel like it eliminates my stress. I feel like
it relaxes me.
I feel like I'm building stronger connections.
It allows me to sleep better.
I'm just the realest me.
It gives me more confidence.
I just feel like I'm so super productive.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many false beliefs that if you were to really truly be honest with yourself, you could see that they're bullshit, right? If you were to just look at one of the very few first ones that I mentioned, like it helps me not feel stressed. Okay, so let's entertain that one for a second. I used to drink because I was stressed, but what would end up happening is the next day I was way more stressed because not only would I drink to the point where sometimes I would black out. I would forget temporarily about the problems it is that I had to deal with, but then the next morning I'm stressed out because I don't remember what I did, I don't remember what I said. I still have that initial stressor of I have to get something done that I'm putting off. And that's when procrastination rolls in. And then that is going to stress you out even more. And then now just like your body drinking alcohol.
I mean, hormonally too, it literally increases the cortisol levels in your body, which is the stress hormone.
Yeah. So you're like doubling down on stress. So does it actually eliminate stress? Probably not. Does it make you more confident? No. Confidence, was it competency?
Oh, what I always say?
Yeah.
Well, true confidence comes from competence.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I'm sure if I were to put you on a stage right now to speak to an audience of 3,000 people, you'd probably be choking up and you wouldn't feel that competent, so that therefore you wouldn't be that confident. But let's say that was like your 500th time speaking to an audience of 3,000 people. You're much more competent because you have so much more experience and everything, and you walk on that stage, maybe there's still a little bit of nervousness and everything, right? But you're much more competent in what you do now, which in this conversation would be like speaking to an audience of 3,000. So you'd be much more confident in delivering whatever speech it is you have. So true confidence is your competence level in something, and that's anything. If I put you in a job position where you don't know how the job works, and I put you in there day one without explaining anything, you're not going to have confidence because you don't have competence in what you're doing, what's your job description.
I am delivered. Yeah, so if you want to be confident, right, you don't need the alcohol in order to be confident. You need to learn the characteristics and attributes about yourself that are the strongest and build off of those and get better and learn more about yourself. But what people use alcohol for is a crutch, or at least I did. I used it as a crutch, like, yes, I could learn this, but it's a lot harder to do that. A lot easier would just be, oh, I'm just going to go have a drink.
I guess it's best to give applicable, right, examples. So in terms of like drinking, nobody drinks to go on stage, right? But
some do.
Sure, right? Where could you say somebody drinks for confidence? Like, what's the scenario?
First date.
Okay, so first date, you drink to feel more confident with the other person being there. And so, if you were to remove the alcohol, it's like, how can you practice on being more confident now that you don't have that crutch anymore?
You can like look up what are conversation starters. You could get like well equipped with like first date material,
Like,
because
actually do some fucking work.
do some work, do some research, right? Like, all right, I'm going to go into this. And then, like, words of affirmation, like, I am confident, I am this, I am that, like, depending on the person. Because what ends up happening, you use alcohol to go on that first date, and now you're going on the second date and you're reliant on alcohol again. And then, let's say, third date, you really think you like this person, but you take the alcohol away, and now you're like, oh, I really don't know if I feel like I like this person.
Yeah.
Do you not like this person because you've never liked this person? Or do you like this person because you've been using alcohol to kind of numb or dull the sensories that are going to tell you, like, hey, red flag, pink flag, like, run away, right? It kind of happened to us. Just kidding.
Wow.
No, but our first date, I definitely
Kind of
was
fucked up when you know the fact is that you're the one that drank both Trulies and I didn't drink at all.
It wasn't a truly, it was a White Claw. I came to our first date with 2 tall cans of White Claw, and I was like, hey, by the way, like, I brought us some White Claws. And he's like, I don't drink. I'm like, all right, more for me.
And then 4 years later, she says, I think that happened to me.
I'm fucking with you. Don't be so sensitive. This podcast is for the strong,
Not the weak.
not the weak. Yeah, and so.
But in terms of like the example that you gave, right? Like, how can somebody be more confident going into a date, right? Yeah, for one, you can do that if like you're that bad socially. Like, if you gotta Google conversation starters, go ahead, Google conversation starters. Or like another thing that came to mind, it's like if you value yourself, sure, you want to like look and present yourself the best, but maybe having a perspective shift of like, hey, like I know what I'm looking for, and I'm basically going into this date like seeing if he's a right fit for me. Like, yeah, I'm gonna strive to bring the best parts of me, but going into it with the perspective of like, I don't want to make it all about me. I really want to like figure out who this other person is. And so that lets off the pressure of you. Like, you don't have to perform.
Yeah. Not be performative. And then also to piggyback off that, like, these are the things that I'm looking for, but also, like, how are you going to show up for this relationship? If these are the requirements that you're looking for, what are you going to provide as a person to land you somebody like that, right? Because a lot of the times,
Land you somebody like who?
What do you mean?
I don't know. You just said land you somebody like that. Like who?
Like, you have these, like, oh, he needs to be, he needs to make 8 figures, he needs to be this kind of person, he needs, like, all these things.
Requirements
right?
that you have.
Or vice versa, a guy for a girl, like, oh, she's got to be like this, 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 and this, she's got to do this, like, she's definitely got to know how to cook, she's definitely got to, right, have that traditional values, right?
Well, what do you bring to the table?
But what are you bringing to the table, right? Because a lot of the times I see, like, people have all these high expectations, and it's like, okay, that's great that you have high expectations, but where are you at realistically? And if you're coming to the date, getting shitty or, like, getting lit up, like, I don't know why you asked me out, babe.
Well, it's like, at the end of the day, you get what you get, and
you get what you give.
At yeah, you attract what you are, right? And so like months down the line, if you're with this person and everything, you're like, damn, like this person ain't that great. Well, like how did you start off the relationship?
Yeah, but it's been a while since we've been in the dating world, so maybe we don't know what we're talking about.
I think this applies to like any relationship, right?
It does.
Like, it's not just in
Early,
terms of
early
like
dating. This could be like
girlfriend,
later.
boyfriend, but this can be like new friends, right? If you're showing up to like a party where there's like genuinely good people, that are all working to be better and better and better, and you show up fucked up, these people aren't gonna want to be around you. And guess what? Like that opportunity where you could have made a good impression and made some really good friends, that can push you and like give you a good time and everything in the future. Like now you just lost that opportunity because you didn't show up as your best self.
I definitely experienced that
Yeah.
here. You know, there was a time where it was like, these are different quality people. Like, I could really show them a good impression. But no, I showed up all like crossfaded and was like made an ass of myself. I even got into a fight with you at the dinner table and like embarrassed myself. Ugh, I look back and I'm like, what an idiot. But still, compassion made the change, love myself now. But yeah, it's like it shows a sign of maturity as well. Like not having that belief that, oh, like it makes me super sociable. It's like, because then the next day you're kind of like, well, what did I say? What did I do? And you have that guilt, that shame, that, uncertainty of like, was I really my truest self? And that's like what Russ was talking about with the imposter syndrome. It's like, sure, did I perform good? Like maybe, yeah, but like at the end of the day, that wasn't really me. That was the alcohol. So it's like having that belief and then just eliminating that belief. Like, this alcohol doesn't actually make me a better version of myself. The best version of myself is the real version of myself. But I think we're in a world where people would rather be liked than be who it is they are.
Yeah, that's true. Like at a certain point, it's like you have to see like the bar is so the standards are so low. Like in society, we're not being taught like, hey, be different, be the leader, like lead the pack. Like don't allow yourself to be led easily. Like what's best. Like represent. Like have respect for yourself. I don't think that really gets pushed hard nowadays for whatever reason. And so it's just a lot easier for people to, want to fit in and do whatever it is that they need to do to feel, quote unquote, like they're fitting in. And a lot of times that just boils down to, like doing stupid things, doing stupid shit to feel like you're being accepted. And that's something that, we you've also talked about, right? And like by doing the sobriety arc, it's like a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna do all this so I can feel accepted. And if people are accepting you when you're drinking, they're not really accepting the real version of you.
Mm-hmm.
They're accepting this alternative person that you've become, that when you're back to normal and you're sober and you meet up with these people again, are they gonna like that sober version of you? Maybe, maybe not. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like having this idea of like, oh, I'm gonna poison myself so I can be liked. So I'm gonna poison myself so I can become somebody else so they like that person. That doesn't even make sense. Like, you should have some respect for yourself. Like, hey, show up as the true you. And if they don't like that version of you that's true, well, then at least they don't like the true version of you, but you don't show up to uh, an event as this different person. And then at the end of the day, questioning whether they really like you, or there's no way to know because you weren't really you.
Put some respect on my name.
Yeah.
And I think that was the really hard part, because that is a reason why a lot of people drink, right? It's so normalized, and a lot of people do prefer to just fit in rather than be themselves. And you liked the sober version of me, but you were one of the many few.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being liked because I was drinking. But when I really look back at it, it's like not all, but a lot of the people who I associated myself with were also just super unaware of the programming that they've been through. And so when I had met you and you were just like, I like you better when you're sober, I was like, this guy just was raised sober. So, like, what does he know? What's actually fun? Like, he's just a stick in the mud. Like, he doesn't know how to have fun. Like, I'm the fun to his life. But I realized that I was totally capable in this last year of having fun while not drinking, not smoking, not doing any form of drug that alters my mind. Like, I'm able to actually be present. And I think that that was the hardest part. I mean, there was plenty of reasons why it was hard to get sober. But one of my false beliefs was that I was going to be so fucking boring. That I was going to be so unlikable. That real version that you're talking about, that nobody was going to like that version of me. But then I realized how much energy I had, how much more time I had, how much more money I had, how much more, like, present I was able to be. So therefore I found things that I actually enjoyed doing. It wasn't the alcohol telling me, like, oh, like, you really have fun going to do this, when in reality, when you take away the alcohol, it's not really fun. Like, I remember playing so many drunk games, like Flip Cup, Rage Cage, Beer Pong, Jenga, Cards Against Humanity, like, all these games that, sure, like, they're fun, but, like, not for, like, 5 hours, like, but we would play these games while drinking because it was fun. But if you were to take the alcohol away, we wouldn't be playing those games for 5 hours. You got me fucked up.
Because alcohol lowers the bar for fun.
Yeah.
It's like what you would normally find level 2 fun. Now that 2 just became like the new 8. And you're like, oh, look, this is so amazing.
And then cue in like, oh my gosh, we had such great connections and we had so much fun. But then I found a lot of the people who I hung around while I drank, when I took alcohol away out of the equation, I was like, maybe that was the thing we had in common. And that's kind of sad. And that's kind of hard to,
come to a realization.
Yeah. It's like, wow, like, I guess I don't have as many friends as I thought I did. Because you start to grow, and as you grow, the gap between you and the people you associated with while you were drinking, that gap becomes bigger. And Snoop Dogg talks about it, and he says it most eloquently.
Yeah, that's like, what we talked about on the first episode too.
Oh yeah, the gap. I love the gap theory. It's just like, in order for you guys to stay friends, like, not every case, right, but the exception's not the rule. It's just they either have to come up with you or they get left behind. Otherwise, you got to drop back down, and then you lose. You lose all the progress. You learn all the things. You lose all the things you've learned, because
you lose as a person in general.
Yeah, because we constantly want to evolve, and when you get to that level of complacency, you aren't really truly happy, because if you were to be honest with yourself, deep down, you're not fulfilling any purpose. You're just living day to day, party to party, event to event, and it becomes tiresome.
It's like one day you're 30, one day you're 40, and like, you're still doing the same thing.
You're looking at all of your friends who are like, oh, they're married, or they have this, or, people still struggle with addiction when they are married, or like their husbands drink, or I landed the lottery with you. I was like, thank God he doesn't have any, like, addiction problems. Like, thank God. This guy had a good childhood. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Like, you've helped me grow in so many ways. But when you would point out these limiting beliefs, I was like, what the fuck do you know? And would kind of get defensive. And by kind of, I mean, like, extremely defensive. Like, let's be honest. Like, this podcast isn't for lies.
Yeah.
This podcast is for fucking truth. And I was super defensive, because I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what I've came through. And that's the thing. It is important to know where somebody's come from. But you were pointing out things that were real. You were pointing out things that my past relationships had pointed out. the ones who had gotten close to me, like, oh, Shy, like, I really think, you have a problem. And I was like, oh, they don't fucking know anything. They don't know shit about that. They don't know where I came from. But then when you're able to actually listen and lower your ego and be like, maybe there's some truth. If not one, not two, 3, 4, 5 people have told me this, maybe there's some actual truth behind what it is this person's saying.
If multiple people are telling you the same thing,
well, you were just the
you
first
better
person.
Just open your fucking ears.
You were the first person I truly listened to, because I was like, doesn't struggle with an addiction. His eyes are most open and clear, and like, you had really good values, and being around your family like really opened up my eyes, like, okay, like maybe, like, I am the problem. And sure, where I came from, the trauma and the experiences that I had had, and the letdown and the shame and the guilt and the bad decisions led me up to this moment. But it was my delusional way of thinking that I wasn't the problem, that I could blame everything and everyone and have this victim mentality.
I thought I'd never hear it out of your mouth.
Why don't you just sit over there and you shut up?
It's about time. I've only waited 4 years for this moment.
I waited 86 years. So yeah, you just have to be honest with yourself. And
I think like it's it's hard to identify things that you have to work on, but one indicator that you mentioned right now, one indicator that's really good that you can like spot, and and if you're currently thinking about this, then you can catch that and be like, there's something I gotta work on there. If you're getting offended about what somebody else said, there is probably some truth in there.
I like your song. Sing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, trigger equals trauma.
Well,
it's like
trigger equals exposure.
Yeah.
It's like, like if somebody's poking like a place where it's tender, then you probably got something there that you should check out, and that's like a really good indicator for you to, maybe it's a little hard to do it at the moment there with the other person.
Yeah.
But it's something that you take home at the end of the day, and when you're laying there in bed and you're just reflecting and you're thinking of like how you reacted, you're like,
And that's the thing we talked about today, was pausing, reflecting. We're in this constant rat race of move quick, go to the gym, go to work, go to this, do this, da 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 da. It's so much movement that very few of us take a time to be still. And it's in that stillness that you get to reflect and really like have a conversation with yourself and be like, okay, like, was I able, to not react and just respond to that? No, because it's, obviously some truth. And that's something that I like that I've been doing. Rather than react to something that you say, like, I'm going to go journal and I'm going to reflect. And then if I still feel this way, I'm going to go and approach it, but I'm going to approach it way more level-headed because I've given it time. And I'm not, like, getting pissed off or screaming or...
without the strong emotions.
Yeah. You're able to, like, actually logically be like, no, this was upsetting that you said this, right? And we had talked about, when you're triggered, like, there's some truth or whatever. And we made the example, like if you cheated, you would be trying to convince me that you didn't, and you'd be saying all these things to like convince me and like to reassure that you're not, right? But if you hadn't cheated, you'd be like, believe what you want. Like,
did this just turn into a relationship podcast?
I mean, we are in a relationship, but that was an example that we used when we were talking in the car the other day about, I don't know how that came up.
Yeah.
But you were just like, we used that example, and it was just so like, yeah, if you know your truth, you're not going to sit there and like try to argue it, Same if you're like, oh, like, I'm super smart, like, just wait till you get to know me. Like, what does that point out? That you're probably not the smartest, right? Or like, oh, I'm so funny, like, wait till you get to know me. Like, that points out that maybe you're not actually funny. Like, if you have to convince somebody of something, like, don't tell me who you are, show me who you are.
Yeah. And like keeping it like on topic, right? Like, if somebody's telling you got an alcohol problem and you feel a certain type of way about that, well, you probably got an alcohol problem.
Keep it on topic. Disclaimer, Cheyenne has ADHD like a motherfucker.
You know, or like what are some other things that people can get triggered about when it comes to like the alcohol topic?
Let me think. You have a problem. Just kidding.
No, well, that's like one way. Somebody
That's
telling you
one,
you have
but
a problem. If you get triggered, boom, okay, you probably do have a problem. Or if,
not thinking it's as serious as it is.
mm-hmm,
Like, or that you're trying when you're not, or like, you're not being honest, and it's like you're pointing out somebody's, inability to be honest with themselves. Like, they're gonna be a little triggered by it
like you
naturally.
you telling somebody that like they're not trying.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, hey, like, I don't feel like, you're actively trying,
To
right?
stay sober.
Yeah, your friends could tell you this, your family could tell you this, right? And that could trigger you if you know deep down, like, hey, maybe I'm not trying to the fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I know deep down, like, if I'm to be triggered off somebody saying that to me, because this is something that I was triggered about in the past, right? Like, oh, like, Cheyenne, you're like the little girl who cried sober, because I can't even tell you how many
Mm-hmm.
times I told people I was getting sober.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, like, 5 times actively, but like in between, they're like multiple little like
Mm-hmm.
fragments of like 3 days, 4 days, 7 weeks.
Or like when you are on your sober journey and you do get a like an urge to drink, and somebody tells you like, like why do you have an urge? Like what is it? What belief deep down do you still have about alcohol?
Yeah.
Or like what belief is it? And you're like, well, there's no belief. Like the hell, like no, there is. Because if you're getting defensive about it, it's that's the time, right? That's what this conversation is about right now. It's like when you get triggered, if you feel emotional about something, that is where you jot that shit down and you reflect on it later or reflect on it at the moment. Like, huh. But that takes
Pausing.
like being
Stop and
able
think.
to control your mind, being able to be like, hey, I'm not gonna be super reactive right now. I'm actually gonna take this opportunity to like think, and that's not easy. But if you can learn to, and it's totally a learning skill,
Mm-hmm.
because like outside of alcohol, like I knew I used to get like super defensive about certain things, like when it came to work, and then when I realized like, hey, like okay, well if you get triggered, that means that there's a truth there. Then over time, I'm talking about like matter of months, like over time, I started slowing down when I did feel triggered or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wouldn't insult the person that was telling me something. I'd just kind of stay quiet.
I.e. me.
No, not even, no, not you. But
No,
like,
you're an angel sent from above.
but like like over time, then I just learned to just stay quiet and actually think. And then it's to the point now where most of the time, I don't know if it's like this all, I can't recall like a time that I got mad, but I've, I'm sure I'm not perfect either, but I feel like most of the time, if you do say something, if you call me out on something, on the spot, I'll be like, huh, it's true. And then I just recognize it. I just like eat it there because at the end of the day, it doesn't serve me. Like, I want to be the best me that I could possibly be. It doesn't serve me at all to get defensive
Eat
and be
it.
like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that requires a level of awareness, and a level of awareness requires honesty. So, I was very conditioned and programmed to respond quickly, right? Be witty, like, you know, just respond, right? But that doesn't give much time to think about what it is you want to say or how you want to say it. So then you could end up sounding like a jackass if you try to like respond quickly. So learning the skills and tools that you don't learn through drinking, because when you drink you just say whatever you think and whatever you feel and however you feel it, even if you're like, ah, and then you could blame it on the alcohol. But when you're learning these skills and these tools through a sober mind, it's like, okay, like I need to excuse myself. I need to go on a walk. I need to go journal. I need to like pause and think about this. Whereas I got a tickle in my throat.
God damn.
I got a tickle.
Good?
Yeah, I'm fine, man. I'm good. Just got a tickle. This
Like
topic's making me
five under
emotional.
1 minute.
So, in the beginning, it takes you a time to.
Okay, I'll just take it from here. In the beginning, it takes you time to, be able to have that restraint on yourself and be like, okay, like I am feeling a lot of emotions. I'm feeling triggered here. I'm gonna slow down a little. I'm gonna try not to say anything, and it's best to not say anything
Yeah,
in
because
the
once you
beginning.
say something, you can't take it back.
Yeah, or you say something where it just like then you get the other person pissed, and it's like, wow, okay, now you went from somebody trying to give you constructive criticism to neither of you like benefiting because now both of you guys are fighting. Um, but yeah, though, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's super important, just being honest with yourself. And when somebody does tell you something, like, reflect on, like, who is this person to even be telling me something? And I think that was a big thing. Like, I would have people who were just as shitty or getting just as fucked up as I was telling me that I had a problem. And I was like, I'm going to take this with a grain of sand. But then when you,
grain of salt.
grain of salt, grain of sand, I don't know, whatever you want to put on your fucking Caesar salad. I reflected more. I was obviously somewhat offended because of my reaction, but then I was really able to reflect and be like, hey, like, maybe what he's saying is true. Maybe there, really is a problem. Like, at the time, I got a DUI, been to jail, punched someone in the face. I had gone to way more trouble than that, multiple blackouts. Like, there were so many signs pointing to, like, drinking's just not in the cards for you. But I'm almost glad that I have this, addiction when I did, because it allowed me to open up other limiting beliefs that I had, not only around alcohol, but life in general. Like, wow, like, I actually think I have a food addiction. I eat when I'm emotional. Or, wow, like, maybe this group of people aren't the people I want to associate myself with. Not
Wait, you
because.
just said having an eating addiction is a limiting belief? Or what did you mean to say?
Did I say limiting belief?
Yeah.
I mean, I had this other addiction. Like,
Oh.
It opened up other limiting beliefs, and it opened up other, like, addictions, other bad habits that I had had. So it gave me a lot to work on, which can seem overwhelming and like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get to a place where I feel happy and content? Like,
Well, you have to remember, right? Like the reason why when a lot of people stop drinking and then their eating starts going up is because alcohol was never the problem. That was just a smokescreen. Like there was a deeper problem, and the deeper problem is trying to escape a certain way that they feel, and so abusing alcohol will go from that to okay, now you're not like really pushing on the alcohol so hard. You're gonna go push harder elsewhere. Like that can be doom scrolling on Instagram. That can be like eating just to make yourself feel better, cope with whatever feelings, or even just like your day-to-day state. Like you may not feel the greatest. You might, you know, like be overweight, or you might like just feel stressed out about everyday life because like money or something, and just like day after day after day it's just it's so your day is so stressful and you don't feel good in your own body, and so what are you gonna do? Like, and especially now that you don't drink alcohol, you're going to go ahead and soothe yourself with something else, something that will help you escape your current reality. And so,
yeah, you start to develop healthier habits and healthier coping mechanisms, because when you started to drink, you didn't learn those things because you most likely, or at least I did, start drinking at a young age where you weren't able to develop the skills and coping mechanisms that maybe you have not growing up the same way.
well, you definitely got to learn those. Like, it's not like you just stop drinking and you
Acquire
develop
them.
better coping skills for all these other
Oh,
things.
figured it out.
You just got to be like, okay, you learn how to cope with alcohol, cool, now your escapism is going to go elsewhere, now you got to go learn that next thing too.
And it's just constantly learning and evolving.
And that's why Kaizen stage is there.
Kaizen.
That's why it's
Constantly
there.
forever improving oneself.
Stage number 5.
Yeah.
And so when you get there, that's what it's for.
I think this is a great place to put a pin in it until our next one. Who knows? Maybe it might be Louise. It might be one of the girls from the community. I might fly in somebody. Who knows? The sky is the limit. But
you keep saying that. I feel like it's always gonna be me. You're like, Louise.
Okay, I'm gonna put it to you clearly. I don't have friends. What do you want from me?
Okay, so officially the co-host.
I have plenty of friends. They just don't live here in the States. Who knows? Maybe I'll bring on Medina. Talk to her about her Russian Maserati. All right. It's been real, guys. Thank you for listening to yet again another podcast. Lou, baby, thank you for coming on.
Adios.
Mango, you want to say anything?
He says goodbye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.